I gained 50 pounds. And this is how I gained 50 pounds and what I'm doing about it. Many of you have been with me through my weight loss journey, but for those of you who are new to my channel or haven't heard about my journey, I lost 120 pounds just juicing, little to no exercise. It wasn't my first time losing 100 pounds. I had lost 100 pounds in my mid 40s through juicing and exercise. And then I gained it all back plus some after being set down from music ministry. And when that happened, it triggered issues from my childhood that ultimately led to out of control emotional eating. That was also the time I started dating my husband. We bonded a lot over food and eating out a lot, something I normally would not do. The emotional eating had me devouring my husband's snacks he kept in our bedroom. Now, I would ask him to help me by not bringing the temptation into the house. I understood it was my problem to deal with, not his. And I must be honest, I thought he was trying to sabotage my progress. But regardless of his intentions, because I'm learning how to stop making excuses for others, especially people I care about, that's a trauma response for me. Making excuses for the negative behavior of people you love can be a form of trauma response, often rooted in past conditioning, stems from a need to rationalize abuse or dysfunction for safety, for peace, or maintaining attachment. It's called trauma bonding. The excuses I made growing up were often out of fear of conflict or a desire to avoid abandonment or the hope that the other person would change. By me constantly rationalizing toxic behavior as a child, I suppressed and repressed a lot of stuff. I grew up doing the same thing as an adult, making it harder for me to recognize toxic or abusive behavior. I'm not saying that my husband is abusive, not at all. However, with greater understanding of myself and the situation, I learned that you can't expect people to treat you any better than they treat themselves. Neither can you expect others to respect boundaries you don't set for yourself. My husband had his own issues with nutrition and wellness. While trauma could explain his bad behavior or habits, it does not excuse his behavior or even make it acceptable. I'm not responsible for managing his emotions and feelings, regardless of his past. When I gained all the weight back, I was so disgusted and frustrated with myself that I cried out to God asking for help. So during that time, I was just starting my healing journey and was learning about self-care, mind, body, and spirit when God spoke to me, self-care. I knew exactly what he meant when he spoke it. If I was struggling with emotional eating, it only made sense to address my emotional health. So I dove deeper into learning how to regulate my emotions through self-care, mind, body, and spirit. Starting my weight loss journey to lose 100 pounds for the second time while mending emotional hurt required a soft approach. I wasn't ready to just dive into hardcore exercise, lifting, HIIT exercises, counting calories, macros. I needed something as stress-free as possible. Little to no stress. I decided to juice again. This time, going on the longest juice fast I've ever tried. It was 100 days. Yes, I said 100 days. Now, I don't recommend 100 days. I worked with my doctor during my juice fast. I also coupled it with protein because I learned from the first time I juiced and lost 100 pounds the importance of protein. And I'll talk more about that in another video. After my 100-day juice fast, I juiced quarterly while also doing the OMAD when I wasn't juicing. I went totally vegan and learned some new delicious vegan dishes. I never knew how therapeutic cooking could be. Maybe it's because the ingredients were wholesome, healing, nourishing. I don't know. I did fun, easy exercises like jumping rope, hula hooping, a little walking in nature. Nothing too strenuous because I was in my healing era. As I was beginning to feel emotionally and mentally strong, I was finally ready to begin my fitness journey. I had already been doing the research, so I felt ready. But after embarking on this journey, I quickly decided that body recomposition was the route I needed to go for overall health at my age. That meant no more long juice fasting if I'm trying to gain muscle mass and maintain it. And this is where I ran into a problem. Building muscle requires a higher calorie and protein intake than what I was used to. So I ended up gaining 10 to 20 pounds. And that is common, especially starting out. Also, I still didn't have a solid exercise plan in place. I thought I did, but no. Also, I was very inconsistent and did not move much throughout the day. Prior to that, my husband sent me on a family vacation for about 2 months. Prior to going, I had many sleepless nights because of the excitement as well as worrying because I knew that it was putting a financial strain on my husband. I could care less about going. However, my husband insisted. He felt led by God to send me, so I really tried to find rest in that. I eventually did, and it was really enjoyable, and I'm grateful for it. After I returned home, I came down with a sinus infection that had me out of commission for almost a month. My immune system was jacked up. It was weakened more than likely because of those months of sleepless nights, the time change, stress. I found myself parked on my recliner. I wasn't able to work out or move much during that time. So I ended up gaining 10 pounds. Now I know if I'm going to be laid up like that ever again, I need to at least decrease my caloric intake if I'm not going to adjust all of my macros. Then I had to have surgery, and that had me laid up again. I could not exercise for another month per doctor's orders. And then I gained another 10 pounds.
Man, it's easy to pack on the weight, but when it comes time to losing that same 10 pounds.
There was even a time I decreased my caloric intake and increased my activity. I ended up gaining weight. Then I just started playing around with some ideas, throwing darts in the dark to see what would stick. I finally adjusted my protein intake when I realized my activity wasn't justification for the amount of protein I was taking in. I lost 10 pounds after decreasing my protein. Finally, I was making progress. But then my birthday month happened last October and I did not track anything that month. I thought I would be okay, but I still wasn't moving much. During that month, I purposely overindulged on peanut butter cookies and popcorners. Once again, thinking,
I should be okay. I got this all figured out. I deserve to treat myself to a little break.
but I ended up gaining back the 10 pounds I had just lost. Then my motivation to work out was beginning to wane a little. Well, a lot. I was starting to get lazy working out at home, so I decided that I needed a change of scenery. My husband gifted me with a Crunch Fitness membership for my birthday, and he decided to join me. He even hired a professional trainer for couples training. I felt so charged by this that I also decided to participate in their 45-minute long HIIT workouts twice a week. Now, experience told me that may not be a good idea, but I love HIIT workouts. I was faithful for 2 months, not really tracking my macros, just eyeballing and having so much fun. Y'all, I gained 20 extra pounds. With me being post-menopause, those HIIT workouts were just too long and intense for me. They spiked my cortisol levels, causing me, in this case, to gain weight even though I was having fun. So, change of plans. I continued strength training, but stopped HIITs immediately. Then this year, I decided to lock in. I went back to weighing myself daily. I made sleep a priority, 7 to 9 hours of good sleep, and eliminated as many stressors as possible. Even though I wasn't too far off, I went back to tracking my macros. The only cardio exercise I do now is walking. I drink my water. I practice intermittent fasting. I haven't done a 3-day juice fast since sometime last year. At the time of this video, I've lost about 20 pounds. So I generally lose 1 pound per week. And when I plateaued, there were a few tricks I implemented to get the needle to move. Now, I've learned not to get too upset when the needle doesn't move, but I will admit it can get frustrating. If it's 4 weeks of the needle not budging, I make adjustments with my macros. I've given myself an exercise break, or what they call deloading. I've intensified my walking through inclines and rucking. This week, I just started interval walking. And my husband is taking major steps towards improving his health and fitness. I even see a difference in how he sees himself. And he's lost quite a bit of weight and he's building muscle. My sons are even talking more about making better decisions when it comes to their nutrition, fitness, and mindset. And actually making changes. Look at God. Honey, I give him all the glory and all the praise and all the honor. He is answering secret prayers. My goal is body recomposition, burning fat, and building muscle, not just losing weight. That's why it's important for me not to lose too much weight each week, track my measurements each month, and make sure I progressive overload. This is the only way I can track fat loss and muscle gain for right now until I can get a scale that measures muscle and fat. Y'all, I am really proud of myself because I've come a long way mentally and emotionally, not just physically. Times I don't even recognize myself. If it was any other time prior to this time in my life, I would have given up. The first time I lost 100 pounds and gained it all back, plus some, I was so ashamed of myself. I sunk into this depressed state. I beat myself up and I felt like a failure. I resorted to frequent binge eating sessions in an attempt to comfort myself. That only made the situation worse. When I decided to take the juicing route for the second time, I put that time to great use. I used my juice fast to do a lot of inner work, emotional and mental work. Juicing was also spiritual for me. When you juice fresh fruit and veggies, you are taking in what they call healing foods. It was that deep cleanse I really needed. I know a lot of people would disagree with the route I took, but it was the best for me, and I don't regret it not one bit. I learned to be gentle with myself, kinder, more patient as I learned more about the root cause of my inner talk stemming from childhood emotional neglect, abuse, and trauma. I learned to extend myself more grace. I have never felt this strong. Never, 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 ever. I truly feel that I can run through a troop and leap over a wall mentally, not literally. I had some setbacks these last couple years, but I was learning. It was to be expected since I was trying to figure this whole thing out on my own, right? Well, with the help of God and YouTube. At the same time, I was relearning this 57-year-old postmenopausal body. It works a whole lot different than my 20s, 30s, even 40s. Let me tell you, if you know, you know, right? At my age, it is work, but it is good work. And y'all, I'm actually building muscle that I can see and feel. I've learned to mother myself, to love, respect, and nurture myself. The difference between the first time I lost 100 pounds and the second time is emotional regulation. My self-talk is different, more loving, more patient, more kind. I refrain from the negative self-talk that got me to almost 300 pounds. It's really not just how I talk to myself, though, but how I feel about myself, how I see myself has changed. It's easy to speak life over yourself when you actually feel those words like deep down to the core of your being. This really is something new for me. Now I understand in an even greater way why God spoke to me self-care.